There are many words that are made up of easy to understand the art of primitive association, that is, associating that which is primitive by the action and sound we make with our mouth, and then we parallel that with our original thought. And when we get a perfect match, and the modern day definition of that word matches, then we know that that word is still in its original state of understanding. I'm going to try and pick one of those simple words, and I will reveal that word by just simply listening to and observing the primitive action of our mouth. And we have to understand the primitive action of the sound we make when we make a letter. Now, the word letter is something you write on paper. And to call these sounds we make a letter or symbol or a pictograph or a hieroglyph, image, and so forth, may or may not properly be the right terminology to define that sound. Therefore, we look in nature, and nature is not letters on paper, but nature is reality of the primitive world we live in. And I have to reiterate this in every lesson I give, that the air we breathe is primitive, the water we drink is primitive, the land that grows our food is primitive, fire is primitive. And our body is primitive, our mouth, our teeth, our tongue, our nasal, our ears, our mind, our brain is made up of primitive elements. And when we correctly associate the sounds we make with nature, and we have that understanding, which is the original thought, that makes it, so to speak, a primitive word, even though every sound and every action we make with our mouth is primitive. But our understanding, our thought, does not have to be, maybe the term would be, don't think of primitive as being degrading. You know, water is primitive, but yet we drink that primitive water to have life, to quench our thirst. For if we take away that which is primitive, life does not exist. Our original thought is our relationship with that which is primitive. Can we use the primitive world to make things better, such as our communicating skills, and to develop a tongue? And another word for tongue is, the root of it is language, linguistic, and so forth. Now let's see if I can keep this lesson simple. Before I start, I should point out in every lesson, to those that don't know who I am, well, I'm hard of hearing, and I wear a hearing device. Here's my microphone here. I got one on the right and one on the left. And this microphone amplifier system was built by my son so I can hear better. And it's very difficult for someone like me who is really hard of hearing to pronounce every word, especially the sophisticated words, with absolute accuracy, because being hard of hearing, I don't hear all the tiniest sounds that other people can hear easily. So if I stumble when I speak, it's because I'm looking and forcing myself to say a certain sentence or words as accurately as possible. So I deliberately speak slower for that reason. When I was a little boy, I spoke 90 miles per hour. I remember before I went to a speech school to teach me how to pronounce words, I would say, instead of saying squirrel, I would say swirl. Instead of saying my name Rodney, I would say Wadney. And so it was common for me to speak with all these sounds that I could hear and failing to pronounce the sound that others can hear. Sometimes people had a hard time understanding what I was saying. One example, there were these two young men from Utah, were in the southeast, where a lot of people talk really fast. I'm talking super, super fast. They could say a sentence that sounds like a blur to someone not familiar with it. For instance, these two young men stopped at a service station, and this was one of those full service stations, not the self-serving kind you have nowadays. But you pull your car up, and the man came up to one of the young men and said, "Let me check your oil. Let me check your oil." And the young man said, "What are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying." "What? Let me check your oil." And then the man slowed his speech down a little bit. Do you want me to check your oil? Instead of saying, "Do you want me to check your oil?" he was like, "You want me to check your oil?" And the young men said they had to learn almost as if it were another language, so to speak. And so I spoke that fast when I was little, and I can still speak that fast if I choose to, but then 90% of the people wouldn't understand what I'm saying. And so with that said, When I was a little boy speaking really fast and I could not pronounce my words really sharp, people said, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" And I had to repeat myself, and people thought there was something wrong with me. Well, it was not mental. It was hard of hearing. So, and I've also learned that regardless of who we are, if we go too fast as a teacher and we teach a subject and we blast through it and we do not repeat anything, to most of the students who probably are not paying really close attention, what the teacher says might go over their head. Whoop! And so let me think just for a minute. And as always, I point out that my eyesight is really bad and bluey. I cannot read letters on paper anymore. If you put a book before me or a letter or whatever, I just can't read it at all because it's a solid blur. It's really bluey. I can look up and tell the sky is blue because you don't need sharp vision to see the bluey sky. And that's why I say my eyesight bluey. Anyway, and because I don't have an outline, it makes it more difficult to teach. I used to teach a geometry class, and it was really fun. And every student learns at a different pace. Some are fast learners and some are slow. Doesn't really matter. What counts is that the student learns. And often I had to repeat things to those who learn slower. Maybe repeat exactly what I said, or maybe repeat it slightly differently. And there are those in the class that gets everything instantly when it comes to geometry. And geometry is easy for me because I was raised in a family. My father was a manned. When I said manned, notice I put that D in there and said that's one of my accidental, because I'm thinking, well, the space program. And they always call it, when they put a man on the ship, they call it a manned spaceship because it had been manned. So I'm thinking that, and I call my daddy manned. See what I'm talking about? Because I had a reason for that. Because I heard that word a lot when I was growing up. And as you know, as you already figured out by now, my daddy made his living in rocket science, and he was a technical illustrator. And so when I was a little boy, I did a lot of drawings of spaceships and airplanes and so forth. So if you're raised in it, it just makes it a lot easier to learn. But when you're teaching geometry, you may be teaching a student that has never drawn a geometric figure, so to speak, such as a simple box. To those of us who have mastered the art of geometry and technical illustration, I can draw a box that's fast. I'm going to just draw like I got a pencil in my hand. I'm going to draw on paper. I'm going to draw a box. See, that took about a second or so. And that's one of the things that amazed me most about my daddy when I was little. He could draw just about anything really fast. And he taught me to draw fast. And so a good drawer can draw fast and somebody look at it and say, hey, yeah, that's neat. That's really cool. But if you talk really fast, you can leave the student behind. So it's important as a teacher that the student understands. And that's one of the great challenges of using an iPhone, talking to it. I'm not talking to a live classroom. I'm not talking to people who are alive and who can talk to me and tell me, hey, Rodney, I understand. And then another student said, I don't get it. And therefore, I adjust my teaching to help those who don't understand. And those who do understand have to hear me repeat and to go into more detail to explain so that the student finally understands. Another thing I like doing as a teacher is allowing those who do understand to go over to the desk and get together and explain to the student that don't understand, and more often than not, they can explain better than I can, because a teacher is not a know-it-all. A teacher may know it all when it comes to geometry, but the teacher may not know fully how to implement and to pass that understanding, which I call when I understand something and I want to project it out, I call that giving that understanding to a student forestanding, because it's going forward. So I say forestanding. And I'm not a master of forestanding. And is it difficult to teach geometry? Yes, it is. Because it can be simple and it can be complicated. But when you have a good understanding of the subject, it's not complicated, it's simple. So more often than not, as I teach, I might get into something that's simple to me, but it's complicated to the student. And thus it is with the subject that I'm now talking about, the archaic art of primitive association. I've been doing it for many years. I've been studying nature and all the sounds of nature and the actions of nature and the physical laws that govern all the elements and the real world around us. And the more you study, the easier it gets, the more simple it gets. To start with, a lot of things just, boom, go right over your head. Okay. And I think I would like to end this particular lesson by saying something that I often say in many of my lessons to those of you who have not heard me speak before. And I would like to point out two things. I like to point out that which is the voice or the vocal cord, and that which is voiceless, or we say the voice sounds and the voiceless sounds. And back in the year 2003, that would be in the month of April. So this April, that would be 21 years ago, I was studying the Hebrew alphabet, and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Tau. And the article I was reading pointed out that the Tau is a voiceless. I'm like, what does it mean, voiceless? And it, like I say, at that time it just went over my head. Now I'll explain the Tau. In American English, we just simply say it the T. And so I'm going to take my primitive teeth. I'm going to put my teeth together. Now pay attention how I will be using words that starts with T. So my teeth are together and I blow air. And that sound cannot be made with the voice. And the 21st Hebrew alphabet is called the Sheen. And it says that Sheen means tooth. And that also flew over my head. I said, why is it called the teeth? And now I know, because I use my primitive teeth and I blow primitive air and I use my primitive lungs to pump out that air and get the air flowing to get that And to those of you who are really paying attention and your imagination is still intact or healthy and has not been hampered or damaged by modern day Western academia, which for the most part is being controlled by gangsters that want to dumb down people. And that's unfortunate. And so getting back to the primitive air and the primitive teeth and getting back to that sound, now I understand why the 21st letter called Sheen is called the teeth, because you use the teeth to make that sound and your air blows through your teeth. And then we go to the Tau, the T, and that particular voiceless sound is called, in modern day linguistic terminology, we call that the voiceless sound of the dental alveolar plosive. And I say dental because I put my teeth together, and as the air is blowing, I stop the flow of air with the tip of my tongue. Notice the word tip had T in it. And you place the tip of your tongue to the back of your teeth, which stay together, and you go T. Now I can start the air and then stop the flow of air by going and then while it's under pressure, I remove my tongue away from the teeth to get that T sound. So I can go slow-mo, or I can put it all together. And that sound can only be made with the voiceless teeth, the voiceless tongue, and you put it all together. And then there is the opposite of the voiceless sound, which is 100% vocal cord. And whenever I went to the dentist, and the dentist wanted me to open my mouth all the way. And sometimes he would say, open your mouth, and I'll go, and then he'll say, well, say ah. So I open my mouth as far as possible, get my tongue out of the way, and I'll go, ah. See, that's an open sound. That's a vocal cord. And that is the exact opposite of the tau. And the first Hebrew letter of the alphabet is called Aleph. In Greek, it's called Alpha. And let's see how I can wrap this up without getting too complicated. One of the meanings, notice I said one of the meanings, not only, of the alpha, the aleph, in America is just simply called the A. And that's not good enough, because letters do have definition and meaning. And it's important to understand the letters that we put together to make words. And getting back to the alpha, one of the meanings of alpha is awareness. Another one is alert. Another one is aha, which you get. You don't use your tongue, you don't use your teeth, you just open your mouth and go, aha, which means, oh, I get it, I understand. Matter of fact, all around the world, in different tongues, in different cultures, pretty much everybody automatically understands when you go, aha, when you have that facial expression. Aha! You get it. You understand. And that's easy to pick up. So I would say probably one of the simplest ways to teach the definition of the alpha, I would probably say that expression, aha, is probably the best expression. And getting back to the T, one of the root meanings, and again I say one of the root meanings, not the only, but the meanings correlate with each other and do not contradict each other. And one of the meanings is a word that begins with the T, is target. Another one is, I've already pointed that one out, together. Another one is touch. And touch is 100%. If you take the vocal cord out between the T and the ch, you get just like my finger touching the table. And there's an airflow, and only the tip of your tongue can make that ch, and then you burst air through your teeth that are closed and go ch, ch, instead of sh, you go ch, ch. Now if I had my full teeth, it would come out better. I'm 67 years old and my teeth have been through a lot. Ate too much sugar when I was little. That's another lesson to all you folks out there, to all you parents and all you children. If you want good, healthy teeth, stay away from that granulated white stuff they call sugar. That stuff will eat your teeth. Oh my goodness, you don't want that. And I stopped eating that stuff quite a few years ago, and since then I have not had none of my teeth decay on me, and that's good. So I still have all my bottom teeth except one that was broken in an accident many years ago. And then I lost a tooth here from being abscessed after I was a little boy and a baseball whacked me right here and bam, broke my teeth. So there's a lot of ways to lose your teeth other than that sugar stuff. But the rest of my teeth, that sugar stuff, man, that's not good. So anyway, oh, by the way, I eat honey now, which does not decay or rot your teeth because it's natural. Okay, so let's get back to the T. I mentioned target, touch, together, tip, like the tip of an arrow, and you use the tip of an arrow to touch a game that you're looking at. In another word that has both the alpha and the tau in it, or the letter A and T, is at. And one of the meanings is to be awareness of a target you're looking at, of something that maybe you can touch with your eye, metaphorically speaking, you see. Or if you're hunting, you're going to shoot. Another shoot has T in it. Now shoot is a teeth word. You go shoot. You're going to, your teeth is shh, and you're going to provide a way to obtain in prayer and thanksgiving the animal that will lose their life for you to have fur and the things you need and food and so forth. So I use the voiceless sound, and I use the vocal, which is 100% vocal, ah, and I put that together, and I've already pointed out the word ah and then T together, at. Now I turn it around, T-A. And we use that order to have word, as I have already pointed out, target. There's much more to this. I'm just trying to keep the lesson simple and correlating and trying to introduce in the most simplest way that I can think of, which may not be the most simplest way. If I had a student in front of me, or a class of students, maybe like 30 students, the really sharp student would say, hey, Rodney, our teacher, there's a better way to explain that. This would be easier. I said, or do it. And then they'll explain it better. And I'll say, yeah, I like that better because, that's the joy of being a teacher. You're also a student. And the best teacher is the student. And the best student is the teacher. They both work together. We're all teachers and students. We all can teach, and we all can learn from someone else. So as a teacher, when the student speaks up and tells a better way, better than me, I say, then I become the student. And I say, and I look at that student and say, you're a good teacher. You're teaching a better way than me, because there's always another way. Maybe not necessarily a better way, but think of it as another way. And so to those who understand the archaic art of primitive association, and they know what it is to be both a teacher and a student. And so I would like to end where I started, so to speak, and in case it flew over your head. And remember, that sound is 100% a voiceless sound. No vocal cord can make that sound. And then ah is 100% vocal cord, voice. And the teeth cannot make that sound, nor can the tongue make that sound. It takes two to make t, tongue and teeth. There we go. There's another T that's different, and it's called teth, and that's the 9th Hebrew alphabet letter, and it has a different definition, but it still has that alveolar plosive, except one is a dental alveolar plosive, but then the other one is a parlate or palatal alveolar plosive voiceless sound. And that one is made, you take the tip of your tongue and you touch your palate and don't touch your teeth, and you go, "Too, too." Now notice it sounds different, got more power. "Too, too." Where the tiny T, see, one is tiny, and the other one is, you don't have to blow it that hard, and you go, so you just have an open mouth. The other one, you put your teeth together. See, so there are differences, and these are primitive action, but you associate this primitive action with your thinking and your thought. And when you recall these sounds, you like to think. When you hear shh, oh yeah, that's a teeth. And a lot of words have sh in it that are associated with the action of the teeth. One of those words is shear. Another one is sharp. And then another one is tear. You tear something, because don't your teeth tear something? See, you're touching your tongue and teeth together, and then you associate that with the word tear. You go, oh, well, it tears something, see? And so forth. Well, I hope that's enough. I don't know how long this particular video is. I try to keep these videos short. And I wish everyone well and learning the good of nature, learning to listen to the goodness of that which is primitive, and learn to have good thoughts, and learn the art of communicating, and learn the art of putting a thought in your head when you make sounds that you can associate it with the proper correlation and association of letters that make words. And remember, letters have meaning, and we put letters together to make words, and we put words together to make sentences. We put sentences together to make paragraphs. We put paragraphs together to make a chapter. We put chapters together to make a story, to tell a good tale, to tally it all up, and to tell all the tale, or in modern day English, to tell the whole story. So eventually, in this journey, we the teacher, we the student, together we will learn the archaic art of primitive association. Cheers to all you folks.